Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another video and today's topic is, who will see Jesus coming in the clouds? One of the biggest things that a lot of Christians are looking for in their future is to one day see Jesus coming in the clouds. And this is coming in reference to Revelation 1:7, which we'll talk about in a minute. But they believe that one day they're going to see Jesus up in the sky, coming down in the clouds, and that every eye on the earth is going to see him. Now, that's not the only topic of this video today. This topic is actually a part of a broader series in which we have been discussing using the book Christianity's Great Dilemma, Is Jesus Coming Again or Is He Not? By Glenn Hill. The question of, when did Jesus say that he was going to come? I know that many of you are probably jumping into the comments right now with the verse from Matthew 24, where Jesus said, "No one knows the day or the hour," and you are correct. He did say that. He said, "No one knows the day or the hour." However, he knew the general time frame, and in fact, he gave the signs to look for so that people would know that that time was about to happen. In this day and age, there is so much talk about Jesus' return and so much talk about the end times and the last days. And while this has certainly been going on for generations upon generations, you hear it even more now just because of the technology that we have for these things to spread far and wide across the internet. So that's why it's so important to look at what Jesus said in the Word of God to tell us, or to tell the people that he was talking to, an important thing to remember, what signs to look for and when he would be coming. So let's start with today's verse, Matthew 26. We're going to start in verse 63, and then we'll also read 64. But Jesus remained silent. Then the high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." "You have said it yourself," Jesus answered. "But I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." So let's first answer two very important questions. Number one, who was Jesus speaking to when he said that? He was speaking to the Sanhedrin and the high priests. This occurred after his arrest in the Garden of Gethsemane. The next question is this: what does this have to do with when Jesus said that he would be coming? Well, let's go back to the verse and reread it, and I'm going to see if you can see where this comes in. We're just going to read verse 64 this time. Jesus said to him, "You have said so. But I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Did you catch it? If you did, I'm going to give you a huge pat on the back, because even though I have now been studying this for almost 2 years and have really been trying to always keep audience relevance in mind, I still missed this one, but I'm going to share with you now. He said to them, "From now on, you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." So who did he say that to? He said that to the high priests and the Sanhedrin. And he told them that they would see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven. And this actually fits beautifully with Revelation 1:7. "Behold, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, even those who pierced him, and all tribes of the earth will wail on account of him. Even so, amen." So here in Revelation 1:7, once again, it is speaking of Jesus coming on the clouds, and every eye will see him, even those who pierced him. Who pierced him? Why, it was the Sanhedrin in essence. It was the unbelieving Jews who called for his death. And what did he just say? to them, from now on, you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven. And here it is again. So, did any of us today pierce him? No. Were any of us today speaking to Jesus here after his arrest? Were any of us in the Sanhedrin? No. He was not speaking to us. In fact, in Revelation 1:7, you will see a cross-reference to Zechariah 12:10. Then I will pour out on the house of David and on the people of Jerusalem a spirit of grace and prayer, and they will look on me, the one they have pierced. They will mourn for him as one mourns for an only child, and grieve bitterly for him as one grieves for a firstborn son. So as we see this cross-reference to Revelation 1:7, and let's remember that Revelation 1:7 is also related to Matthew 26, in Zechariah, it tells us specifically who this is about. It's about the house of David and the people of Jerusalem. And again, it says, they will look on me, the one they have pierced. So here we have 3 passages in a row, all of them related, and we have 2 of these 3 passages speaking of Jesus coming on the clouds. And he is talking about a very distinct group of people, isn't he? So, in order for this prophecy to be true, then what that means is that some of the members of the Sanhedrin and the high priest would have had to have been alive when he still returned. I'm sorry, not still returned, when he returned. So I'm going to try to make this very clear. He was talking about coming in the clouds to them, not us. He was talking about them, the first century enemies of his, not us in the 21st century. He was telling them that they would see him coming in the clouds, not us. And the interesting about this is that Jesus didn't only say this to his enemies. He also said this to his followers. He told his followers that his coming would be in their lifetime. So we have Jesus saying that to the Sanhedrin and the high priest, and we have Jesus saying that to his disciples. So here are some other passages that we've gone through in this series, just to remind you of this, to show you how beautifully this all fits together. So first, in today's verse, we had Jesus telling the Sanhedrin and the high priest that they will see him coming in the clouds of heaven. In Matthew 24:34, Jesus said to his disciples, "Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place." Then if we go to Matthew 16, we'll start in verse 27 and read 28 too. "For the Son of Man will come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will repay each one according to what he has done. Truly I tell you, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." So in Matthew 24:34, he was telling the disciples that all of this would be happening within their generation. Then in Matthew 16, he told them that some of them would still be alive when he came back in his kingdom. Let's see if we have anything else that fits with this. Why, yes, we do. And here again, we have Jesus not speaking to his disciples this time, but speaking to what we would call his enemies. And he was speaking here to the scribes and the Pharisees. And so let's read verses 35 and 36. "And so upon you," he was speaking to the scribes and Pharisees, "and so upon you will come all the righteous blood shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. Truly I tell you, all these things will come upon this generation." Yes, Jesus said this more than one time. And in Matthew 24, he said it to his disciples. This time he said it to the scribes and the Pharisees. And it should be hopefully evident to those of you who are watching, or to those of you who have read these passages already, that he was saying these things to the scribes and Pharisees, specifically to them. He was telling them the things that they have done. And then he told them, truly, I tell you, all these things will come upon this generation. The same words that he used with his disciples in Matthew 24:34. But wait, there's more. John 21, verses 21 to 23. So Peter, seeing him, said to Jesus, Lord, and what about this man? Jesus said to him, if I want him to remain until I come, what is that to you? You follow me. Therefore this saying went out among the brethren that disciple would not die. Yet Jesus did not say to him that he would not die, but only, if I want him to remain until I come, what is that to you? So you might be wondering with this one too, well, what does that have to do with anything? So most people think that the disciple that is being spoken of here is John. There are some who think that this is Lazarus, and this is something that I honestly haven't looked into very much yet, so I'm not going to speak on that. But we'll just assume for now that he was speaking to John. Here we have Peter saying to Jesus, and actually right before this, for context, Jesus had told Peter how he was going to die, basically. And so Peter, he said to Jesus, well, what about this man? And we'll assume again that he's speaking about John. And Jesus said this about John, if I want him to remain until I come, what is that to you? You follow me. So this rumor started spreading around the disciples that John was not going to die. But it says Jesus did not say to him that he would not die, but only if I want him to remain until I come, what is that to you? So there are people today who will, say, oh, well, that's because John is still walking around somewhere. He's still alive and he's walking around somewhere. And that is not what this is about at all. Even the rumor among the brethren that the disciple would not die, they knew that it would not die before Jesus's return. And if you notice, they were not astonished by this, thinking, wow, thousands of years from now, John might still be alive. No. This did not astonish them because Jesus had already told them. They had already heard Jesus say multiple times that his return would be in their lifetime, that some of them would still be alive. Maybe John would still be alive upon his return. They were told this generation. Some of them heard him say to the Pharisees and the scribes, this generation. So when these disciples were spreading these rumors about John, they weren't thinking of him being a Highlander who's like walking around timeless and not aging, or maybe aging and just still able to walk around. That's not what they had in mind at all, because they all were coming from the knowledge that they had received from Christ, that he would be coming in their lifetime. So all of these passages fit beautifully together. All of these passages confirm that Jesus is talking about something that was going to happen in his generation. And a biblical generation is 40 years, and you can find that in the book of Numbers. And since most Christians today have been taught that we are still looking for a future coming, of course they're going to scoff at this and they're going to say, no, of course he wasn't talking about them. He was talking about thousands of years in the future. But I'm going to read from this book, again, it's Christianity's Great Dilemma, on page 44. It says, nowhere did Jesus ever make the slightest reference to his coming as being in the far distant future, hundreds and thousands of years away. Nowhere. Always, let me repeat, always, he said that he would come in this generation, during the lifetime of his contemporaries. Not only did Jesus promise to come before all of his followers died, but also in this verse, before all of his enemies had died. And again, he's referring to, because in this verse, in Matthew 26:64, he was speaking to his enemies, but we just went over the passages where he gave the same information to his followers. So my question to you is, out of all of the passages that we've gone over today, did Jesus say anything that would make you believe that he is coming soon today? Not one. He didn't say anything to make us assume that he was speaking about sometime in the distant future. So on page 45, it says this. In Matthew 26:64, you again have only two alternatives. Either Jesus came back before all of the Sanhedrin died, or he lied. And my friends, he did not lie. Then going on, it says, number 1, if we insist on continuing to say Jesus has not come yet, but he is coming soon, then we are saying Jesus lied and thus was a false prophet. Now I'm going to interject here. Why would that make him a false prophet? Because he told people again and again and again and again that these things were going to happen while some of them were still alive and in their generation. And I know you will have so many people saying, well, here's what he really meant. And they will interject something. He meant the generation that sees these signs. No, that's not what he said. That is absolutely not what he said. Or they will say, well, when he said you, he wasn't really thinking you. He was thinking about the terminal generation when he sent you. Let me ask you something. If you were in the crowd listening to Jesus speak, or if you were one of his disciples and you heard him saying these things and he said you, would you think to yourself, oh, well, he's not really talking to me. He's talking about people in the future. No, of course not. When you say you to someone, you're talking about them. Now I'm going to continue on with what Glenn Hill had to say in number 2. He said, if we see this truth and say Jesus is not coming in our day because he came in the days of the Sanhedrin, then we take a stand against a cardinal teaching of today's church. And yes, saying this can get you into trouble with your church, because unfortunately, many of them, they follow the creeds, they stick to them as if the creeds are the inerrant word of God, and they are not. They are not inerrant. We need to stick with what the scriptures say. And you know what? Sometimes the scriptures don't match with the beloved creeds of Christianity. And saying that would also get you into trouble too, probably. But anyway, I'm going to continue on, in which Glenn Hill said, I cannot accept that Jesus was a liar, a deceiver, and a false prophet, and thus certainly not the Son of God. The only truth here is Jesus came as he had promised over and over again in the days and lifetime of his contemporaries in the 1st century AD. Which will you choose to believe? The creeds, traditions, and doctrines of men, or the plain words of Jesus? That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one down below. And if you like my work and would like to become a channel member, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well, or you can just click on it right on my channel page. And I hope you have a great day.